Assalamu alaikum. For almost 73 years now, I have been waiting for the moment when I would be given my birthright of self-determination. My sacrifices are aimed at winning the right to decide my destiny by myself. My cemeteries are full of Makbul Butts and Burhan Wanis, who were either hanged or bayoneted by the Indians only because they cherished the dream of freedom for themselves, their people, and their motherland. What a pity! The conscience of the world never stared to their supreme sacrifices, nor a tear was shed seeing them bleed. Instead of taking notice of unremitting Indian oppression, both the world community and the UN rather chose to look the other way. I am Kashmir, the victim of perpetual Indian aggression since 1947. As if the atrocities committed on me during the past 72 years were not enough, the Indians let loose a fresh reign of terror on me on 5th August 2019. It began by the revoking of Article 370 of the Indian Constitution, robbing me of my special status, and then clamping down a long curfew to stifle the voices of the hapless Kashmiris. To muzzle the media, all mediums of communication with the outside world were blocked so that nobody could get even an inkling of what was happening with me. Article 370 was the basis of Jammu and Kashmir's accession to the Indian Union, at a time when erstwhile princely states had the choice to join either Pakistan or India. But I was denied. I have indeed been placed behind the Iron Curtain for so long. What if I use words like Bergen-Belsen, concentration camps, gas chambers, Holocaust, and anti-Semitism to give you a better gist of what I will be discussing today? Because these nouns have turned synonymous to bloodshed, mayhem, and eternal scars on human souls. For Kashmir, a gifted geographical gem, but a political paralysis for its claimants, the circumstances are not any different. We know that Kashmir is a victim of biased and malevolent treatment by those who sold it, annexed it, and have now been inflicting the worst pogrom upon its Muslims. Due to an ever-rising number of martyrs of our Muslim brothers and sisters, we have gathered here to emphasize that humanity is at stake in the illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The chapters of Kashmir's history are saturated with hideous events, with slaughtering being the least horrible treatment. According to sources, the Indian forces have committed unfathomable human rights abuses against the Kashmiri civilian population, including extrajudicial killing, rape, torture, enforced disappearances, and political repression, just to name a few. Statistical data can only tell us about the hundreds of thousands of people martyred, blinded, and disabled. But it can never come close to disclosing the staggering figure of those spiritually paralyzed. On this gruesome canvas of time, we can only see humanity already under the guillotine, begging for mercy and emancipation. Let me share a remarkable similarity between the current predicament in Kashmir to the circumstances which caused World War I and II. In 1914, an Austro-Hungarian prince was assassinated with the political objective to combine the South Slav provinces with Yugoslavia. This apparently minor dispute over land triggered the First Great War, which itself changed the maps of many countries. The war, which lasted for over 4 years, resulted in the rise of Nazism and fascism, coupled with the revival of the nationalist spirit in Germany. These sentiments only continued to grow stronger, and the year 1939 witnessed the outbreak of yet another war at a far greater scale than anyone had ever imagined. It brought along inexplicable repercussions that still reverberate within us today. The dropping of the atomic bombs was a cause of sudden death for not only thousands of people, but for war itself too. And this culmination doesn't seem too distant of a reality for Kashmir. The governments in other continents must realize that in case of a nuclear war between Pakistan and India, their ecology will also suffer irreparable damage. The countries which have so far preferred to remain tight-lipped merely to glean business interests from India must come to the understanding that in case of a nuclear outbreak, their financial investments in India will also go down the drain. It is therefore indeed in the best interest of the entire world that these countries come forward and force India to honor the UN resolutions on Kashmir. In fact, every Kashmiri today reiterates the following questions. 1. Didn't the first Indian Premier Nehru promise not once but countless times that India will hold plebiscite? 2. Isn't it a fact that the Indian forces are blinding the Kashmiri population with their pellet guns? 3. Is not India blocking the entry of the fourth estate, the media, to conceal the extent of the barbarity of the Indian forces? 4. Are not Modi and his henchmen working on a calculated plan to change the demographics of Kashmir? 5. Is not Hindu fascism breeding extremism among its victims, spreading terrorism far and wide? Saving my fellows the trouble, I will answer these concerns instead. Yes, yes, and yes. India today stands exposed everywhere. The world must come to realize that being the perfect replica of Hitler, Mr. Modi is hell-bent to wipe out the Muslims in Kashmir. India can no longer pride itself over the claim of being a secular state, a tune to which it kept harping to befool the world for over 72 years. Almost 3 generations of the Kashmiris are born and bred in an atmosphere which reeks gunpowder and human blood. How can the Kashmiri youth forget the Indian tyranny on their forefathers, many of whom were brutally tortured or killed in front of their very own eyes? Why don't the voices of the children, the old, the sick, crying for milk, food, and medicine reach anyone's ears? Why is the world turning a blind eye to the excesses committed on the Kashmiri women by the Indian soldiers? Aren't these all signs that we have eradicated every ounce of humanity from within us? I dare ask the honorable countries affiliated with the United Nations that if issues of East Timor, Quebec, Sudan, and Scotland can be resolved through referendum, why can't such an option be extended to Kashmir? On this forum today, we call the world to action. India must stop dilly-dallying because the Kashmiris and Pakistanis are not going anywhere until we put a full stop to their tyranny and deliver justice to the ever-deserving Kashmiris. Thank you.